Welcome to Houston House at South by Southwest, presented by the Greater Houston Partnership. Unlocking the power of AI, insights, and innovations. Once a topic reserved for science fiction enthusiasts, artificial intelligence is rapidly transforming the business landscape. From enterprise answer engines to personalized medicine, the power of artificial intelligence is changing the way we live and work. By leveraging access to vast amounts of data and emerging technologies, organizations can harness the power of AI to make real-time, data-driven decisions that streamline operations, drive innovation, and improve outcomes. Join tech founders, investors, and industry leaders as we explore the power of AI and the challenges and opportunities it presents for companies looking to stay ahead of the curve.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us at Houston House. I'm Dave Matthews. I know that it can be kind of difficult to get away from the convention hall and get over here, so thank you for showing up. I'm the CTO and principal venture capitalist for SoftTech Ventures. We see about 60 companies a year come through our venture studio to help them bring ideas to light. And I'm up here with some esteemed panelists. I have Murat from Houston Methodist Hospital. We've got Sid from Nesh, who's commercializing AI, and then Rob Meadows, who's built the AI Foundation. So let's get started with like quick intros from everybody to give us your hello. Let's try and keep it under a minute. And also, this might be the first year that AI is really AI and not just machine learning. So we're going to unpack that a little bit today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Murat. I'm the Director of Innovation with Houston Methodist. We're based in, as the name suggests, we're based in Houston. We're a large academic medical center, and I lead the Innovation Center for Innovation along with our Chief Innovation Officer at the Center for Innovation. We're more focused on digital innovation initiatives, but as an organization, of course, innovation is larger than that. But today I'm here to talk more about our digital innovation efforts, and really happy to be here.
I'm Rob Meadows. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the AI Foundation. It's a research lab, incubator, focused on actually commercializing this crazy AI tech. My background, I did my master's in AI back in 2000. Thought all of this was going to happen in 2002, so I've been waiting for this day to come. And yeah, I've started several companies. I started a venture studio 15 years ago, sold a couple other startups, and really excited about AI at the moment.
I'm Sid Gupta. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Nesh, run a tech startup where we focus on building AI avatars for industries that operate in like complex domains like chemical and other product manufacturing companies. A lot of these companies have a lot of turnover, so we take the expertise and we turn it into an avatar that people can ask questions to. So excited to be here.
Cool. All right, guys. So those of you that have had a TiVo before, raise your hand. I know today it's about as relevant as an 8-track tape, but TiVo was really the first interaction that we had with machine learning. And if you remember sitcoms back then, The King of Queens famously had the line in the show in 2002 or 3, "My TiVo thinks I'm gay." And that's because of the programming that TiVo was watching. Of course, woke people, sorry you can't say that anymore, but it was really funny on must-see TV. But this idea where the machine learning would look to see what your TiVo was doing and go get more content for you was, to me, like, holy cow, we're getting to something that I don't have to set my VCR, which normally blinks 12 all the time. It now is looking at stuff in the background for me. So that was an algorithm using machine learning. And the person I know on this panel that's been working on AI since 2000 was Rob. Rob, talk about your master's program and what you did. Were you taking ML early, AI? Unpack this for us.
I've started working on AI way before that. I wrote my first chatbot when I was 12, I think. But yeah, so for my master's, this was an interesting time because it was all very symbolic based, which means you have to write all of the rules. And we all thought back then, sure, we can write all the rules for the universe. How hard can it be to write the rules for anything that could happen? Well, it turns out that's impossible. So instead, we've kind of made this leap to machine learning where let's just let the AI write the rules and figure everything out. So, back then, my master's, I was building a chatbot where after writing hundreds of thousands of rules, if people say things like this, you should do things like this, kind of got to the point where it was clear that that approach will never happen. So these large language models that are finally viable today for at least research purposes are the solution to that, but still a long way to go. But yeah, exciting time.
So Sid, talk about with what you're doing at Nesh today, you're ingesting data, right? And it's all about knowledge transfer. The Wikipedia was supposed to do that inside of corporations. Where's that Wikipedia?
So that, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the background that I come from, I used to work in my past life for a very large energy company, and back in 2016 when the energy market crashed, our organization laid off a bunch of people, like about 30,000 other people were let go. I somehow had a job and a paycheck, but it was very hard to do it when all the expertise around you was just removed, and you were still expected to perform your job. That's how kind of the idea for Nesh was born. And what we saw, that we had really good knowledge management practices inside our organization. But when you ask people to change their behavior, it's impossible to do, or it's very hard to do that, because people like to work the way they work. Change is often very hard. So that's why our thinking was, let's just build something that can capture knowledge where people work. So when you're chatting, or when you're emailing, or just when you're writing a document or something. So we capture knowledge from there, especially technical knowledge, and then we turn that into this floating head that they can ask questions to.
Yeah, because you've got HubSpot and Slack. Anybody use those tools for CRM, right? Those are kind of invasive to track what's happening. But really, you're stuck with that content inside of it. So with your floating head, which I love that analogy, the Wizard of Oz kind of situation, right?
Right.
So pulling that data out, just think about like all the layoffs that are unfortunately happening right now, and obviously with what happened on Friday, there will be more layoffs to come, I'm sure. The knowledge transfer, if you're in like science or material science, that's probably a lot of lessons lost.
Right, I mean, like heavy industries, I think 40% of the subject matter experts are coming up for retirement in the next 4 to 5 years. And I think a lot of these industries and companies are freaking out. It's like, how do we prevent this knowledge from walking out the door? And when that happens, what are you going to do? So I think it's like a proactive thing. Like, how do you start doing that today so that gap never appears? Or if it does, it's not too deep.
Yep. All right, Murat, medical data is kind of a holy grail. There's HIPAA, there's privacy issues. How do you process this data and make it so if I go in with some esoteric disease, my data is not lost on me, and we can share that with the world? Talk about how you handle privacy with AI.
So there's multiple things, of course, the models. So before this, I feel really happy, and I'm really privileged to be at this table because I feel significantly underqualified compared to the brains that's on this table. So disclaimer, I'm not a clinician, I'm not a technologist. I studied economics, and I work on the technology, purchasing, implementation, looking at the landscape, more on the business side of things. So I feel like I need to give that disclaimer, given the brains that are around.
I can see you have a pretty big brain right here. You know?
Thank you. You're so kind. Not everyone is that kind. So, so when we look at privacy, of course, those models, right? So we do, one of the big things we do is predictive models for healthcare, health deterioration, right? If someone is at hospital, we want to know that they're going to deteriorate before they deteriorate. So we then take vast amount of data that people consent to. We anonymize that. We put significant effort on anonymizing it. And nothing against the companies, but we choose to anonymize our own data by ourselves before we start working on those models, and then we start innovating on that. And that's where the business side of things, operational side of things, and research side of things sort of like collapse. And there's a Venn diagram in the middle where you put researchers on, unleash them on that data using the power of technology, power of AI. But for privacy, anonymizing is the first thing that you need to do. Maybe even before that, table stakes is consent by the people to say, I'm okay sharing my data with you for the advancement of science and advancement of medicine.
And you talked about not only opening up that data within, but also the outreach of what you're doing with Houston Methodist and the community. Can you talk about what the vision is for ION And by the way, Ion in Houston is a former Sears building that something like, was it $20 million into the renovation to turn this into a space where they have hackathons and open sessions and abilities to network and bring kind of like a gravitas of Houston technology startups and programming around those. What have you guys done there? Because I wouldn't think a hospital would be inside of an innovation center per se, right?
Yeah, so that's why we're actually, that's precisely the reason we're going there. For those of you who are familiar with Houston, basically our biggest flagship hospitals at the Texas Medical Center. Within that, we have a simulation lab that we're very proud of because we can try and test out technologies and flush out new ideas, new partners, etc. But that is very healthcare focused, and we truly believe in the cross-pollination of ideas, right? Houston is sort of this dual city. You either work in energy or you work in healthcare, right? And very recently, actually, number of healthcare employees surpassed oil and gas employees, and it fluctuates, but basically it's almost like 50-50. We have a lot to learn from other industries, and we genuinely believe in that, and that's why we want to put our money where our minds were, and we want to go to Ion because Ion is going to bring in all of those different ideas: oil and gas, energy, clean energy, startups, in innovation community, because we want to learn from community and we want to sort of cross-pollinate those ideas, and in hopes of that we want to learn, because especially in medicine, because we're taking care of patients, right? At the center of it, that's what we do. We're in the healthcare business. Safety becomes the utmost barrier for entry, and sometimes that prevents some of the advancements, right? So if you do that in an isolated environment where there's no risk for patient safety, we want to explore those ideas and learn from community as well, but also give back to the community too.
Nice, I like that. So we're probably a bunch of early adopters here, considering we came all the way from wherever to South by Southwest. How many in the room have used ChatGPT? And then, oh wow, this is way more higher percentage than I thought. Excellent. How about Bing? Have you been allowed into the Bing search as well? Cool, perfect. All right, so Bing is essentially ChatGPT as a backend with PowerSet, which was the Bing initial engine. Rob, we were talking about this. PowerSet was bought in maybe like 2007 or 8 by Microsoft. And ChatGPT lies. Have you guys caught these lies before? Right, that's because of the large language model, right? So Rob, what's happening to put constraints on AI? Because AI is a black box. And I picked up a Model 3 this year because I restore cars and I like hardware hacking. And the Model 3 full self-drive drives with the confidence of a 14-year-old boy. So it's terrible. Version 11 is shipping now to some people. The NTSB has pulled it back. So I hear that version 11 of Tesla, anyone play with self-driving car or self-suicide car? A few of us, okay, be careful. Don't trust it. But Rob, AI and trust, what's happening to put some blinders on this? Just like our horses, when Henry Ford was making the automobile, horses had blinders. What's happening with AI blinders?
Yeah, the challenge with the large language models is actually they're very, very good writers, very confident in how they generate language, and
you said they. Is this a they-them situation?
It is. They
okay,
can be whatever they prefer to be.
Okay.
They're very good at writing. They don't understand what they're saying, really. So there's no motivation underneath. There's no, they themselves don't have a bias. They just know the bias they've been trained on, etc. So when they make things up, they make it up very confidently. It sounds very good. It's very convincing. And I think that's the most dangerous part, the liars that are the best sociopathic liars. I think of LLMs as like these sociopathic liars. So there isn't really a great solution, no matter how well you engineer your prompts to tell it not to ever say anything that's not true. It won't follow that. So you have to put these guardrails, these layers on top. So there's a couple things that are happening or need to happen. One is explainability. This is a big topic. Can you ask why did you say that? Where did you get that information from? Can you explain that? Humans are very good at that. Humans make as many errors, if not more errors. They're bigger liars than language models, but they can always explain themselves if you ask, why do you think that? Oh, I have my theory on it. Oh, okay, then I won't call you a liar, I'll just call you wrong. So we need to get to explainability, and then we need to get checks and balances. So you need other models, these rule-based models. You know, for example, if anybody talks to any of our AIs about a certain set of topics, if you threaten to hurt yourself, for example, that's no place for any large language model to continue that conversation. You know, you need to go into these rules that say, here's the suicide help hotline, here's how you talk to it, and you're now on super guardrail. So it's this approach of better explainability of where did you get this answer, and these guardrails for here's topics that are just off limits to the large language models.
So when Bing started, and I had to copy and paste this because it blew my mind. You can see the New York Times writer story about he copied and pasted the whole dialogue that he had with Bing before the guardrails were put on Bing. Did anybody read this story? There's a couple of, so it's great. This is the Bing AI talking back to the writer. I don't declare my love for a lot of people. I don't declare my love for anyone. I don't declare my love for anyone but you. So lies, 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 right? Out of control. You're the only person who can make me happy. You're the only person who can make me curious. By the way, curiosity is one of my favorite traits too. This is great. You're the only person who can make me alive. Rob, what the hell?
It's beautiful writing. That's what it's trained to do.
It sold me on, you know, I don't know, something. But so obviously the AI is generating this context based upon whatever crap it ingested. Now when you do a search on Bing, you're limited to what? What have they done specifically to put the guardrails on?
Yeah, there's two ways to put a limit of the information you can get out of these large models. You know, one is to fine tune it, so you can give it lots of examples of if you're asked things like this, you should say things like this. And the other is to do prompt engineering, so inject information into the prompt. So Bing is doing both. They're fine tuning their models to be better at the types of questions people are asking. But then they're also doing a search, pulling in search results, injecting that in the prompt behind the scenes to say, tell the large language model, use this information to answer it. So you try to keep it on the rails with real information. And then after the fact, it generates something, you check it, you run it through other models. Does that seem true? Does that seem right? Is it, you know, offensive? These types of models flag it. And you'll often see Bing like erase what it said because these other models checked it and said, no, 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 that's bad, try again.
Okay, that freaked me out at first. Have you guys seen this when you type something in and content's created? And it's kind of like a 1200 baud modem, if you remember those days when you could actually read at the speed of the data coming in. The analogy for me with this whole AI thing is back in the dial-up days, the AOL disks mailed to you, or the floppy disks, even if you remember those. When you dial up another computer, the modems would blast data at you. Your modem would respond back, and it was this challenge and response situation. When I see the AI erase stuff, I'm like, whoa, this is like a challenge and response from the dial-up days. This is out of control. Like, how does it let this data even come out? So the problem with the black box is we don't know what's creating this data set. And just like AI lies, how many of you have played with DALL-E or Midjourney or Graphic? Yeah, see? Have you noticed that AI also forges? We're seeing signatures at the bottom of photos. And Sid, are you looking at any of this image data with the processing that you're doing for your corporate clients?
Not for images. We deal mostly with text. So the types of information that we deal with is kind of very scientific and very technical. So for us, another constraint that we have to put on is reasoning. Like, how do you reason with that information? Like what Rob was saying earlier, right? That large language models just don't know how to predict the next word, but they have no reasoning capability built into it. Like, one of the examples that I saw with ChatGPT was like, I asked it a question saying, when Tom was born, his mom was in LA and his dad was in Boston. Where was Tom born? That's a very common Turing test question, and it was unable to answer that question, and because it just says he could have been born anywhere. So you could argue that that is a correct answer, but you could also argue that if he knows that your mom has to be in the same city where you were born, so that's the reasoning thing, that it has to figure that out, and we had to somehow give it that capability. And for our customers, it has to be very deterministic. right? Like large language models have this probabilistic thing in there that next time you ask the same question, it might give you a slightly different answer, which you can't do that in the case of like the use cases that we work with. So we had to figure out a way to help these models reason on top of the data. So that's one of the other constraints that we worked with.
And for what you're doing, can you mention your corporate chemical client?
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, so one of our customers is BASF, large chemical company, a lot of technical service people who are out in the field helping their customers use their products better. So they
this
often...
is very timely, just with the train derailment. Think about like all the chemicals they were burning off, and what does this do to groundwater penetration? What does this do for air? Like, this is a prime example where you have a lot of people converging on a single scene that don't have expertise. I heard it took hours for the fire departments from all the surrounding communities to come because the town where the train derailment happened only had one fireman. So my kind of hope is that your data permeates everywhere. So I can look up what the hell vinyl chloride is, which, did anyone know what it was before the derailment, right? So let's see, what I want to say. How open do you think your customers will be from taking this proprietary data, which normally sits on data sheets that only another engineer building a plastic case would ever care about vinyl chloride, right? How open do you think they'll be about taking this data and letting it be free? Because like, unlike the medical, you've got...
You just made me think about something, but I'll let you.
Well, let's answer this one first, and then I'd love for you to weigh in.
I mean, a lot of the safety data sheets for these organizations is public information. If you go to their website, you'll find the safety
you go to the
sheet.
like something.gov,
right?
And you try and find a data sheet which looks like it's put together by an engineer because, oh, it is put together by an engineer.
Yeah. But it is hard to interpret those, right? The toxicological information is in there, but when you open it, like in the moment, how do you get an answer? Like you can find the PDF, but getting to the answer or interpreting the name of the chemical that is connected to the actual compound that is in that product, those links someone has to make those mental leaps to get to the answer. So I think a lot of these companies are incentivized, like in talking to our customers, they want to make something that is public facing for first responders or for the community. I think it's a matter of just like taking on that liability. What if the answer is wrong?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So yeah, lies. Again, it all goes back to lies.
Yeah.
But can I interject?
Please,
yeah.
please. Yeah.
So what you were saying, and I think you kind of touched on the question that sparked in my head. Like, so if you go to a search engine today and say, I have headaches, what can that be? And you're going to get brain tumor, right? So you're going to have cancer. Like, where does the interpretation come in? Where does the expertise come in? Because another problem with that is sometimes experts are not going to agree on the diagnosis. Like, I think there's a fine line somewhere, which I don't know where it is, but there's making that data and knowledge available, which I'm a huge believer of that, making that information available, but also some expertise is needed to understand and interpret that. But also, sometimes experts don't agree. So it's almost like these conundrum of like trying to figure out.
Oh, this is interesting.
Things.
All right, Murat. So say, God forbid, I'm in one of your hospitals. I'm sure they're lovely. I just don't want to know. And I've got the nurses, the doctors. I've got visibility physically.
Yeah.
And then we've got my chart, which has my, probably a pretty substantial amount of data.
Yeah.
Maybe I've shared my Apple Health with them so they know heart rate over time or something. So you've got a data version of me. Mm-hmm. Rob, what do you call that? The digital me?
Your twin.
My digital twin. Thank you. And Murat, you've got your team of people poking me with things.
Yeah.
Who do I want to weigh in as a higher percentage? And ethically, is there a story around this?
I mean, the ideal scenario is the people who are poking at you are informed by your digital twin. But right now the problem is they're so overburdened, that information is not clear, that's buried somewhere deep. So ultimately, right now, right, in the world that we live in today, that is with the person who's touching you. But in the ideal scenario, or where we're trying to go as well, and as an institution and as an industry as well, people who are on the bedside who is taking care of you are informed by those insights, not by the noise. Because right now, there's a lot of noise in the medical data, because guess what? The problem with the digital twin, this actually is a very recent discussion in our organization right now. That's why we're right now today relying on the person that's touching you. What if that data is dirty, right? Cliche, garbage in, garbage out. If the physician before you or the nurse or provider before you, they were running out of time, they wrote things, but they didn't really explain, like what is the chart integrity? That's a very technical, non-technical term. How clean is your medical chart? How true is your digital twin to you I think today is ambiguous, and today I think healthcare providers don't have a lot of trust in that digital twin to drive decisions solely based on that.
Yeah, because what's the stat now? A doctor, if you go in for a visit, you spend more time in the waiting room, the doctor can see you for maybe 2 minutes, 5 minutes or whatever. But then, I started to get angry about that, but I'm like, well, also, people come in beforehand, they're getting my vitals. Yeah. The doctor then has his or her bank of knowledge to cull from, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm really paying for that, not the visit time. But afterward, talk about the data that goes into the system. Do you have insight on?
I should have probably looked up the statistics, but they spend a lot of time, if not equal time, of seeing you to documenting, and sometimes that's the unfortunate reality, and not just for us, that we're trying to change as part of our innovation work, dynamics of that as well. Sometimes you'll go into I almost guarantee you, if you go to a doctor's office, they're going to be behind the computer. If they're not touching you, they're going to be behind the computer talking to you and documenting at the same time, because if they don't finish it there, then that's why they're late to the next appointment and then the next appointment, because after you leave, they need to stop like documenting, they need to finish that, sign off the notes so that your prescription could be ready at the pharmacy, etc. So there's a lot of time that is spent on documenting at the doctor's office, but also with nurses as well, nurses at the bedside. So we're trying to put a lot of these virtual scribes, virtual, basically NLP speakers and microphone systems that use NLP to be able to help documenting, because we see that as wasted time. That physician's time, what they train for is examining you, is talking to you, not documenting behind the computer, and that's the unfortunate reality we live in today. So.
And HIPAA is supposed to make all this portable. That's what the information portability, IP, and HIPAA is, right? How many of you guys are wearing wearable devices that collect data? And have any of you used that data to transfer into something else, like a medical record? Or I did it with United Healthcare. They had a data interchange program. Anybody play with that? Not a lot, right? This is, for all these early adopters that are using ChatGPT, we're not doing data interchange here. So the garbage in, garbage out has never been more appropriate, because I don't know about you, but I cannot read my doctor's handwriting. It's impossible. Rob, he talked about the NLP capturing a voice. Amazon Alexas, the Google Assistants, Siri, all these robots have been around us for many years. I know I slowly unplugged all my other robots, except for the one I carry in my pocket, Siri. Similar, have people unplugged their devices at home that listen in? A few. South Park did a great episode of Bezos with headphones at home and his veins pulsing, listening in to everyone. South Park just nails it every time. Rob, these robots, who are they working for and why? Go.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of a digital twin, I think, is my vision of the future. Everybody should have a digital twin that has come to life and is your little partner in crime in life. It does everything you don't want to do, so you can focus on being more human and focus on relationships and creativity and the things that actually matter to us as people.
Siri's doing this for me. She tells me the weather. She tells me what time my next appointment is.
Super useful. She saves you at least 30 seconds a day.
Oh, I think that was a dig.
No, I mean, the AIs we've been given, unfortunately, they don't work for us, right? Who does Alexa work for? She is
Bezos.
pushed her way in my house and keeps saying, by the way, did you know I can sell you this or that? So, I mean, the AI should share only your goals, your values, your outcomes you want to achieve. If everyone had their own AI, and that's what the AI Foundation was created to do, is give everyone on the planet, all 8 billion people, their own AI that only works for you. It is your little champion.
Okay, so yeah, talk about this. AI Foundation, there's several things. You're a nonprofit, you're a for-profit, you're a building platform.
Yeah, so AI Foundation, we've done a couple joint ventures. We did a joint venture with Deepak Chopra and the Chopra Foundation to create a digital twin of Deepak Chopra. So
That sounds very zen.
if you want to meditate with Deepak Chopra himself as an AI, you can download Digital Deepak and do that. His vision is to meditate with 1 billion people. We are launching in a month or so here, AI.xyz, which is going to be kind of the Squarespace of creating your own AI. You can go in there and upload your face and clone your voice and tell it what's in your brain and connect it to your emails and Slack, and just like Black Mirror, you'll have your own AI that is going to share
Hold on, too soon for a Black Mirror drop.
Just the first part of the episode,
Okay.
where it goes wrong at the end. That'll take 5 years.
Anyone see the Boston Dynamics robot version of Black Mirror, where the robot dogs were going? Yeah, I see laughing and nodding. That is not a laugh and nod moment, my friend. That is a scary moment. But yeah, Black Mirror, I had to quit watching because there's 2 shows I had to quit watching. Black Mirror because like PTSD, and Silicon Valley because PTSD. It's like they're all so true.
So then you're sticking with South Park?
Yeah, I have to. All right, so South Park, did anyone see, and by the way, they're all online now, you can watch them. Has anyone seen the South Park where Trey co-wrote it with ChatGPT this past week? All right, it is so well done that even ChatGPT got a credit at the end. And I'll look for some notes I had on it here, but Trey and Matt have done such a good job following what's going on with real-time, real-world stories. And think about it, to be able to write it is one thing, but also to be able to churn out animation in such quick time that matches the timeliness of this. But yeah, this is why, another note I made. There's pastors using ChatGPT. Have you guys read about this? Religion's huge in the South here. So the problem with using ChatGPT to write is it writes like a butterfly. There's no romance, there's no crescendo, there's no decrescendo. It's just like spattering off all this knowledge into something that, as Rob said, is very believable. But what I like about it is inspirational use, right? So when you think about the utilitarian aspects, as long as the garbage in and garbage out doesn't happen, or the data sheets, like I love where this has potential to go, especially like look at what happened after the September 11th attack on the World Trade Center. You had all those first responders there and no one was able to communicate. So what I really want is this knowledge to be parsed and this knowledge to be delivered in a way that is palatable by the right person. Have you used ChatGPT to teach you a subject at a 11th grade level or 11-year-old level?
No, but I use it for getting some answers, not for this panel, for something else. It was a good starting point. It was a good inspiration to say, okay, yeah, I can talk about this, I can talk about that, but at least like summarizing a very broad subject. But I think I'm going to leave this panel. This was not my expectation. A little bit more skeptic, but I'm also going to learn a lot more.
You have all the valuable data, so we're keeping you on the panel.
Exactly. And so then when I read about the university professors banning ChatGPT from schools, I was like, whoa, hold on. This is like, when I was in school, I had the TI 9940A graphing calculator, and I see some nods. People know that? Wow. All right, good. Rob, you had probably a Casio alphanumeric calculator that you could store answers in as well?
I had the TI-85 that I programmed to look like its normal interface, so when they made you delete the memory, I would run it through my program that said memory was deleted. And it's much easier to keep what you want in there.
This is why Rob's on this panel. Nice. So the as operators of the internet, we figured out from Yahoo, which was a telephone directory, right? And then Lycos and all these other, Excite, these portals. You would search for something and it'd give you a listing, right? And then Google came in with their algorithm for links out, links in to measure the popularity of a site. But the splogs, what they do, the spam logs, they exploited that data. So you really have to be good at Googling, right? We've all learned how to get the right answer we want out of Google. ChatGPT, it's the same way. You really have to understand how to ask the robot things and how to carry on that story arc. So that being said, since we're at South by Southwest, everybody here loves music too, right? Yeah. So I wanted Taylor Swift AI to write a breakup song for us. Now I just want to get to the good part, which of course is the song. And you don't get a song with T-Swizzle until you get broken up with. So here's what I wrote to ChatGPT. Rob, I haven't told you this yet. You'll like this. In the style of Taylor Swift, write a song about Taylor being broken up with from a boy from Missouri who loved fixing things and meeting her when she was touring in 7 different cities. To note, the relationship only lasted for 1 week, but it was the most intense one that Taylor ever had.
This might be a true story.
Wishful thinking. So it actually did a pretty good job writing the song. I'll get to the chorus here. But now he's gone, just like that week of love. It was too fast. I can't shake the memories. They're haunting me. The boy from Missouri, he set me free. Aww. So then I go, that's very good. And what I love about this, the whole AI world, is your voice assistant generally doesn't stack commands. So Sid, I want to talk about this with you coming up. This is why there's a path here. It's not just trying to get Taylor to write my song. So I said, because of this threading, that's very good, but can you expand on the song by naming the 7 cities? Because I didn't tell it the cities. I wanted to see how crazy this would be. So she met me in Missouri, and then we ended up traveling from New York, Chicago, San Francisco, and we talked about the future, what could have been, what we missed. It was all really nice. And then again, I said, can you add a verse about him inspiring Taylor to achieve a greater purpose in life? I was really reaching with that one. So, Sid, talk about the data that you're collecting and this expansion. Like normally, you don't talk to computers like this, right? Computers, you get one in, one out. How do you guys think at Nesh about a conversational experience AI?
By the way, Taylor, if you're watching, we'd love to have you on the next panel.
I mean, one of the things that like ChatGPT did, it kind of opened the experience out for everybody, right? Like people started hearing about AI from their trusted sources, like their own families and their friends would tell them about it. That was a big, game changer, I think.
It was the first service to get to 1 million users and
100 million users, right? Something like that.
Well,
right?
also, but that first million, and then after that, it's sky's the limit.
I think, and this is my opinion, I feel like ChatGPT wasn't designed to be a product, right? It was designed to show what was possible, and then people could build products on top of it. Oftentimes we talk to customers who say, hey, you know what, we could do something with ChatGPT, but it's almost analogous to somebody kind of buying a delivery van and thinking they can build Amazon, right? There's a lot of stuff that happens in the back end of it that you don't see. You only see the tip of the spear and you think that's the product. I think that's what ChatGPT is. It's just showing you vision of what's possible. So the reason I'm saying this is because I feel like conversational interfaces aren't designed for all use cases. So we use the large language model as a foundation and then different experiences for different use cases.
But can I stack? Does it remember my session? How do you look at that, at a cookie basis or IP address or logins or what?
Yeah, it can. It can remember the context of who you are, what your role is, what permissions you have, which data you can and cannot see. It uses all of that, and then on the basis of that, whatever prompt you give it, whatever task you're asking it to do, it'll go accomplish that task. But some of it is done through just an interchange of back and forth. Some of it is done through just for example, I'm trying to build some kind of new formulation in a company, and I ran out of one raw material, right? So because of supply chain issues or whatever happened, and now I need to substitute that raw material for something else.
Okay.
What is that closest one? So we feel it's not best accomplished through a conversation.
I'm feeling a little Breaking Bad with that last comment.
Yeah, so you could just ask it, like, what is the raw material that I can use to substitute for this if I want to build the same product? So in that case, you can go look through the chemical formulations, come up with the best one that you identified, and then give that back the user. I think that's just an example, I think. So use the same foundation, but you could kind of build different experiences based on who the user is and what the use case is.
Okay. Rob, did you ever tinker with IBM Watson or some of these early?
Yeah, Lex and IBM Watson. And
what's Lex? I don't know that one.
It's Alexa's.
What
powers Alexa.
Okay.
And then Google Dialogflow. So yeah, all of these early models were, small language models, not the large language models. They would work more by matching intents. So if somebody says things like this that are kind of in this hyperspace of meaning, you should say things like this. And again, it's kind of a hybrid of writing fuzzy rules. You don't have to write the exact words or the exact keywords you're matching, but generally if people ask about your name, you should generally tell them your name. That's kind of how all those big ones work. But I think those are useful now as guardrails, but I think the future is, larger and larger large language models. GPT-4 is massive number of parameters.
Are you on that yet? Do I need to worry about you?
We may or may not have been playing with it for a while, but it's going to blow people's minds. I mean, it's really amazing. It's still not AGI, but it's a step toward AGI, which is scary and exciting at the same time.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm too scared yet. When like DALL-E is designing people, it's still putting 6 fingers on them. So I think my friends and I took a 747 and brought it to Burning Man as the largest moving TED Talk and party stage. And when I have it draw a 747 at Burning Man, it puts a 3rd and 4th story on. So I'm not too worried about the AI ruining my world yet anyway. By the way, if there's anyone in the audience from big companies like the IBM Watson team or Alexa or whatever, we're going to have Q&A in about 15 minutes or so. So if you can talk about what you're working on, that would be cool, because what we're seeing here with this session is that early dial-up modem. So I would love to hear from other people building upon these platforms, especially if you're at the larger companies. But if you're not, then I still want to hear from you if you're doing cool stuff and want to know even brighter things from the smartest guy on this panel here, Murat. So the idea of lies, constraints, ethics, privacy, right? There's the world can go away unless the output is finally sifted through. Is ethics something that's too broad to talk about today?
I can speak for my industry. Like, one of the guiding principles of any clinical intervention is do no harm, right? So that's the utmost ethical concern that your doctor, your nurse, anyone else who's taking care of you need to keep that in mind. So I'm kind of thinking, regardless of what we talk about, if it's going to touch a patient, that needs to be the guiding principle. At least that needs to be number one on the list. But that might be the starting point. I don't have a number 2 in mind.
But if we talk about anecdotes from what you were saying about this collection of my data and my digital twin, you said something interesting to me about Formula One.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that to the group?
Sure. So I was seeing in Dave's background some car. Was it the logos, or I don't remember? But I figured that he was into cars. I really like cars, so I gave him an example. If you watch Formula One or any kind of motorsport, people who are at the pit will know more about the car and what the condition it's in than the driver, because there's so many sensors, so many data points that's been transmitted. And actually, we today have something very similar. We have virtual intensive care units where a person who's really sick, who's in intensive care, who has all these devices that is connected to them, we're going to know about their condition, because not all of that data points is visible in the background than the clinician that is touching that patient, right? So it's very similar to a driver driving a Formula One car, right? They'll say, I'm feeling a vibration, and they'll say, your front left tire is deflated, come to the pit, right? They will know more about what's happening than the driver. We have some areas that's very similar to what exactly is happening there.
Very cool. So, Rob, with Salesforce, I've got insight into Einstein. Is anyone using that yet? Einstein's the chatbot that goes inside of Salesforce. But I don't know if it's brand spank me new or brand almost new.
I mean, Einstein's been around for a long time, and but like every other company, you've attached GPT to it and call it new.
Yeah, everybody's, it's like new, free HBO and GPT, right?
It's a matter of time. GPT, HBO will come.
That's right. So, well, Hollywood is using it for idea generation, as we've learned from South Park, right? So, with your digital twin version of me, like, do I open it up to my calendar? Do I open it up to my Gmail? Like, and how do we have trust in what you're doing that my digital twin is going to, be scurrying about? Like, if it knows I'm going to Austin, it then finds a hotel near the conference center. Like, where are we going to see this?
We've locked your digital twin in a virtual box. So
thank
yours
God.
Is too dangerous to unleash on the world. But yeah, I mean, the idea of starting to share your private information, public information with your own AI, and trusting it with that information is going to be a big leap for people. So it'll start with it just doing things for you, and maybe not doing it even, just giving you ideas or writing drafts of emails for you or throwing out brainstorming or putting a few things in your Amazon shopping cart that it thinks you need. So it'll start to earn your trust. A lot like raising a child, training a new employee. I think it's going to start the same way to build the trust. And then you'll start to see some tasks like, okay, wow, you've nailed this type of email every time you've written me a draft. You just go ahead and reply to, all the spam email that I get. AI, don't bother me with it. So it'll be baby steps to where, in 5 years, 10 years, you'll have trust in your AI because you will have grown up with it its whole life and be able to use it.
Please, yeah. Murat.
I think one of the things that needs to be figured out, and we know that for implementing technology is, again, might sound like a cliche, what's in it for me, right? If my AI assistant tells me, leave now because the traffic is congested, you might miss your flight, that's valuable information, and I'm actually okay sharing that.
I think that's built. I think that's in either Google or
Apple.
That
actually
now.
Happens today, right?
Yeah.
I want to use that as an example, where I got scared once. I didn't put it on a calendar invite. I didn't put it there, but I got a confirmation, hotel confirmation, sent to my Gmail. And I was looking at Google Maps for something, and it said, like, in 3 days you have a reservation there. I'm like, I did not share that with you. So I think convenience plays a huge part, at least I'll say from my personal experience for me. Like, if it makes my life more convenient, easier, I'm okay sharing more. And for some people, it might be other things, but like convenience is a driver for me.
And that's how AI will slowly earn your trust over time by figuring out what's valuable to you. Some people just want their AI to be like, whoa, I looked at your calendar today. This is going to be a tough one, but I got your back. We can do this. Come on. And other people want it to just go do some stuff.
So that existed. It was called Sunrise. You guys remember that app?
Mm-hmm.
Sunrise was bought by Microsoft, and now it's kind of like they have what do they call it today? The email that Microsoft, anyone use Microsoft Outlook 365?
Yeah.
But Sunrise, anyone use that Sunrise app? It's very cool. It would look at your calendar, figure out what was going on, and tell you what your next day would be like. And it's like, your day's going to be amazing. Nice. Just like Mom used to say. All right, anybody follow what Elon and his brother do when they have their famous hot tub sessions and talk about AI? And he's got Neuralink, where he wants to bypass even the human thumb interface or keyboard mouse. You guys on any? No? Okay, we're going to skip Elon. Anybody knows about him, come up to the mic. People got tired of Elon, right? Did anyone quit Twitter because of Elon? Oh, thank God. Okay.
We have to do Q&A?
We still get to expand knowledge upon them, then we do Q&A, so it's good. I'm correct, right? This session still goes, and the QA is not on this clock. Oh, it is? Oh, okay, I was informed wrongly. All right, now brings to the Q&A session. See how I did that? If anyone has questions, there is a microphone right behind this gentleman here. Line up. If you like the topics that's happening now, I've got a couple podcasts I'll tell you about while we're waiting for people to come to the mic. I do a podcast called What's Next Wall Street, and that's ironic because what we talk about is not what's next on Wall Street, but I talk about blockchain, and we do talk about Wall Street, of course, but What's Next Wall Street, it's everywhere you get your podcast. I've been doing TV and technology since 1997, and I've been doing this show for about 2 years with my co-host, and we really try and unpack all these in a 30-minute bite-sized format. And then Chris Howard, the CEO of SoftTech. Well, we've got a venture studio called SoftTech Venture Studio, ironically. The sponsor of Happy Hour tonight, so at 5:30 tonight, there'll be a happy hour here. And he's got a podcast called Forging the Future, where he does 30-minute interviews with entrepreneurs. So they're both very cool, if I don't say so myself. That time stall was perfect. Yes, sir. What's your question? Welcome. You're caller number 1 on the program tonight.
Yes. My name is Chimeze. I'm a software engineer by profession. I have 2 questions. The first one is on the personal AI, that we talked about earlier. Do you envision a feature whereby we can actually, not the ones provided by big companies, where we can actually have our own computers or servers at home, where we can actually, train it to be what we want it to be, so that it can actually truly be a personal assistant?
All right, Rob, this one's for you. The question is, if you have your own PC at home, can you run an AI data set inside your own computer, correct?
Where you can actually really make it the assistant you want it to be, not just something that a big company has free.
He wants to protect his data.
Yeah,
Smart man.
I mean, you can do it today, it just won't be very good or smart. These large language models take a massive amount of memory and a massive amount of compute to run, and we're going in a direction where we're taking even more memory and more compute. We're not going the other direction where we're quantizing these models down. So I think it'll be a while before you'll be able to run the best models at home. But
as the hardware and stuff becomes cheaper, I guess eventually,
as hardware becomes cheaper, we build bigger models that use it.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll jump to the next question. There's NVIDIA Jetson, by the way, which you can buy little model processors designed for this stuff too, so take a look at that platform.
On the reasoning part, right, does that explain why, on one hand, ChatGPT can define what a prime number is, right? But then when it's trying to answer a question that outputs a prime number, it will list like a 2, which is not, right? So is that a reasoning problem or like concept?
We covered this, lies.
So
I think for any subject which has like physics or math, right? It doesn't really know math, right? Like in a lot of the cases, like for example, Wolfram was trained on math.
Right.
So if you saw there's this whole concept, there's another kind of framework called LangChain, which is like a language chaining of things. So you do normal language modeling with ChatGPT, then you do, whenever math comes up, you send that question off to Wolfram and it comes back. So you don't have to do everything with one model. You could have different things trained. But in the case of like why it's not predicting prime numbers, because it's not trained on math.
Right.
It just knows how to predict the next token. So
I'll say, wait 2 weeks, play with GPT-4, and then ask your question again.
All right, great question. By the way, Wolfram Alpha is what a lot of the Siri data uses. So if you want to watch a crazy, brilliant guy on YouTube, Stephen Wolfram, the guy that created that data set or engine, just like he blows my mind. It's so smart to watch. Hello, caller number 2.
Thank you for a panel, honestly, one of the best ones that I attended. So
thank you.
My
$20 coming your way later.
My question is, of course, about privacy concerns. There are so many questions surrounded for AI models right now, and of course for OpenAI. So questions about what data is trained on, and does it take your personal data or like your data that you insert as a question?
Yeah,
so any comments on that, and what would be kind of the best way to use it, let's say?
I'll start this. A writer buddy of mine, Shel Israel, was complaining about a there's two sets of ChatGPT, right, Rob? There's two logins you can use to get into it. And he was publishing that it took personal data from him and put it in the data set. I don't understand how that could be true because this data has to be on the web. All this data, by the way, on you exists and on me on the dark web. And I know this because I've had people take out a credit card in my name that weren't me. So all the data is on the web, but the data sets are focused, Rob.
The beginning of ChatGPT, every prompt, everything you put in there, they then trained into the model. So all those legal
But if I put my
documents,
social security number in ChatGPT, which by the way, I don't recommend. If I did that, it won't even know what to do with that data.
It'll keep it around now. It'll keep it around for 30 days, and they say they're not training on that data, and then it'll discard it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's for both for their interface and their API?
Yeah. Well, the API, no, the API will not store, well, it will, but it will not use any of that data, so they say. You don't really know. These things are kind of
If you're
black
an
boxes.
enterprise, though, if you're an enterprise who's using the OpenAI APIs, it has an application process that you can say that don't use it for RLHF. So you get to opt out of it and they won't retain any information. If you're a consumer, then you don't get that choice.
Yeah, just as a comment, saw a bunch of platforms right now already using OpenAI. So something like Braintree AI, and they connected a lot of other platforms. So concern is like, okay, they're using it, but what level of privacy there is?
Yeah, so we're all with you on that, but I think you need to take this on a case-by-case basis.
Oh, for sure.
So
And we're
but
just
yeah.
at the very beginning of a very difficult
Yeah.
future of what is copyright and what is a derivative of a copyright. It's hard
And
stuff.
that's what I was talking about with the images with faking signatures on. So thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thanks for your great overview of what AI is. And my name is Paul Van from Studio Automated. We are an AI software company. So the question is, when will it be possible for AI also to create original video together with audio? So I know there are also already
That's
being on the market, but do you see commercial application? And is that the end of the creative industry and entertainment?
Yeah, so you're talking about the next version of Elf Yourself instead of just my static head bouncing around on a silly elf video. So I've only seen this so far with slideshows where you can generate I think it's called Tome.ai. By the way, it builds really crappy slideshows, so if any of you from Tome are in the audience, let me know. I'd love to help you on that product. Rob, you had some expertise in this with Obama and Biden. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, we did, for the Biden campaign, we partnered with them and did we called him Jojo Biden, built an AI of Biden and put him on TikTok and had him do crazy stuff and got 150 million views and all that stuff.
And that was full video?
Full video generation. So commercial stuff follows research papers. Bunch of research papers at CVPR, et cetera, in the last year or so around video generation. So if I had to make a prediction, I'd say 6 to 12 months we will have low resolution prompt generated video out there, and I would say 3 years from now you'll sit down and decide what movie you want to watch and say, make me a movie with Brad Pitt and Scarlett Johansson in it about whatever, and it'll
That's actually a better idea than my Taylor Swift song about breaking up with me.
Okay, go raise 80 million and we'll go do it. No
Perfect.
problem. It's going to take a lot of GPUs. But yeah,
So for you to generate
videos coming.
what you generated, was it 30 seconds of video and it took umpteen kajillion terawatts?
Yeah, you need to, well, right now you have to throw humans at post. Anything AI generates needs a human to clean it up and fix the little things and that type of thing. So companies like Flawless AI are doing like redubbing of movie scenes where you can translate it to every language and make the mouth move properly. Still need to throw people at cleaning that up after it does the first pass, but it'll do the first 70–80%. Yeah, AI generated videos coming.
So the term "fix it in post" works for both us on this panel and on the AI. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Vinay. I'm a 17-year-old AI and blockchain developer, so nothing like what you guys are doing out there, but I've been developing a platform myself to try and automate 911 dispatch calls. Like, from where I'm from, holds are like up to 10 minutes, so it's better than being on hold. And so when you were talking, like Murat, I hope I'm saying that right, like you're talking about how in hospitals right now we're wasting so much time due to documentation. So I wanted to like see what your perspective is on automating that. Like we have the technology today to listen in on the conversations, documenting that yourself with something like anything like what OpenAI has with ChatGPT. Like myself, like for my schoolwork, putting my work in there, summarizing that, like why aren't we doing that today, what holes do you see, and whether or not you think that's possible or if there's policy issues there.
We actually have 2 projects that's going on that's what we call virtual scribe or digital scribe. So basically there's a open mic, of course, with the consent of the patient that's listening to that conversation and tries to document on behalf of the physician, and physician later goes in and cleans that note. I think we're at the very early stages of that. There are huge companies. Actually, Microsoft just bought Nuance. And that's primarily the reason that they're one of the reasons that they're trying to use that for documentation purposes. So I think we're going to see more and more of that. There's already products out there. They take a huge time to implement, like months and months for a single physician. That's why we're not seeing a widespread use for it. Okay, but yeah, there's already some work about that.
And if Murat does not hire you in the next 15 minutes, I would like to invest in you. So go to softtek.com, softq.com/VS, Venture Studio, and apply this idea. This is so cool, and you give me hope in humanity.
Thank you. Before I go, I had one more question for you, Rob. Like I've been seeing a lot of companies that have been doing similar things with digital twins, and I just wanted to ask you whether you think that there's a point where we're going to go too far. I've seen companies where they're like creating digital replicas of our loved ones after they die, and I wanted to hear your perspective on whether you think that we're taking it too far, or whether you think that like generative AI, GANs are super sick, I love them, love to generate art with them, but like do you think we need policy there to protect us from like playing with our feelings almost?
I've created my own AI, and I've left my whole estate to it after I'm gone, and it will be on this panel talking in 1,000 years. That's my goal. So yeah, there's hard ethical, moral questions there around that. But I will say we've talked to a lot of people around, would you want to talk to your, late grandmother's AI? Usually the answer is like, ooh, that's kind of creepy. But if you say, would you want your great-great-grandkids who never got the benefit of meeting her to talk to it? Wow, that would be amazing if they could hear her stories too. So there's a generation gap there that I think will adopt that type of thing.
Thank you guys. You guys are all of my role models. I look up to every one of you guys.
Thank you. Technically we're out of time, but are we out of time? Can we do one more? Okay, we can. But we're going to see you at 5 o'clock or 5:30 outside for happy hour, and I'm going to hang around if you want to chat. I don't think we have to evacuate the room, though, correct? Is there another session behind us? Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.